are all ready to go. My name is Adam Japko, and I am the CEO of Esteem Media. And with me today, my co-presenter, or I'm her co-presenter, is Mally
I'm
Skok.
yours, yeah.
And Mally Skok is the founder of Mally Skok Design, who basically is a textile designer and luxury interior designer. And one of the people who, both in design and design marketing, I admire for their approaches and their sensibilities. And hi, Mally, glad to have you
today. Adam, nice to see you today.
Great to be here together. So what Mally and I have planned sort of is that I was going to give a little bit of an overview. We just finished the Design Influencer Connect broadcasts, which is our pivot in the pandemic era for our conference. And so I was going to give a little bit of an overview of some of the important elements that were discussed there, as I do every year at Digital Day. And this year I asked Mally, because I've watched Mally develop her content approaches through the pandemic, obviously, actually since she started, but through the pandemic. And Mally, I thought, had an amazing, again, sensibility.
I go my own way.
Yeah, an amazing sensibility of approaching her content in ways that work for her and her business. And very recently was just added into or voted in or selected for the Palm Beach Designer Show House.
Phillips Show House. Yes, a great honor.
Yeah, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think, and I also just want to thank ADAC, who organizes Digital Day, and also our magazine at Esteem Media, Atlanta Homes and Lifestyle, and then would also like to give great thanks to Travis and Company for sponsoring this event. And Travis and Company is the showroom that hosts Mally Skok.
I'm part of the Travis and Company family and very happy to be there.
Yeah, so make a visit to Travis and you can see some of Mally's stuff there. Okay, so Mally, so I'll get on with my conversation.
Okay, yes, you go.
We'll go from there. Okay, so really in my world, and I guess in yours too, over this pandemic, I found that before we start any meeting on official business, you kind of got to give everybody the update on your pandemic situation and the weather where you are located, since everybody is in different places. Since we don't have a lot of time, I'm going to give you a real quick look, a pictorial view. This was me before the pandemic. This was me at the beginning of the pandemic when we ended the Design Influencers Conference under a pandemic. Emergency disaster declarations in San Francisco last year, exactly 1 year and 2 days from today. And this is me now during the pandemic. So I've kind of, I've given way. And here's basically how the weather is. This is the way it was last spring. This is the way it was this summer. And this is the way it is now. And you can draw your own conclusions from that. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of data some data along the way in the presentation. So I really want you to just have a look here at some of the things that I have sourced. And if you have any questions about any particular slide or source, you can email me at ajapko@esteemmedia.com. One of the things that I dedicated myself to during the pandemic was to watch and research and make believe that I was responsible for broadcasting the news. Everybody was broadcasting news about how many people are dying, how many people are getting vaccines, how many cases are happening, what states are doing this and what states are doing that. I felt like, well, what about the world that at least this little corner of the design industry that I play a role in, which is influencer marketing? Who's watching the news? Who's watching the changes and developments? So that's something that I did during my quarantine, and revealed a bunch of it earlier this week in at our conference. One of the things that I wanted to share with you, because since this is about influencer marketing and so many of you are designers and you're also brands, the question is, am I really an influencer? And what I want to show you is really how our attendees answered this over the last 2 days of what the level of their design influence is. And you'll see half of them feel that they have a low level of influence, excuse me, a third of them, 2/3 are either medium or just starting out, and only about, maybe 20% or 10% believe they have higher, super high influence. And if you want to understand how they're gauging that, this was how many followers they had on their primary platforms. And you'll see that just under that, let's say 575 people have under 10,000 followers. And Instagram, by far, by the way, was the top platform for all influencers attending the event this week. So, the issue is, do you have influence? And the way I like to try and help people get their brains around it is that what influencers do is essentially bridge the gap between brands and consumers in a highly authentic and an easy way. And the reason that they can do that is they already have a following that already trusts them, where brands often are they're interrupting you with messaging, and they may not have that relationship with you. So leaning on the excellent brand building activity of the influencer is why this bridge that influence is built between brands and consumers is so powerful. So how do I think about it? How do I think about myself, or any of you think about yourself? Because I think it's important to go, as I go through a few of my slides, that you'll have an understanding of where you stand in this world. The questions to ask yourself is, am I already using or enthusiastic about a specific brand and, or product? So if you are, that's step one towards being an influencer. And secondly is, have you been building and nurturing an online audience that is part of a brand's target audience? And you all have, because brands want to talk to designers and to consumers who follow designers, and you've built an audience like that. And so ask yourself that, and if that's the case, now you have a couple of things that make you an influencer. And then do you create conversations online? Maybe not lead them, but do you instigate them that implicate purchase choices? If all of these things are true about your online activity, you are in the position of carrying influence that is up to you how you want to deploy, really, and what you want to deploy for, whether it be just your design business or whether it be on behalf of other brands. It would be in a number of different ways to do it. But the important thing to remember is it doesn't matter kind of where you stand in the hierarchy of the industry and the world and your profession, because followers' decisions are often made not based on your hierarchical standing in some organization or industry, but on the affinity and trust that you built with them. And you don't have to reach this amazing level of connoisseurship, although most of you have, just in your work. But if there's an affinity and a trust and you're recommending something, that's enough for really strong influencer marketing. So let's talk about some of the trends that happened through the quarantine. There was one amazing study which identified and was done by Influencer and Global Web Index, two real leaders in influencer marketing. And it was done at the end of 2020, and they surveyed people who follow influencers online. So all of these answers come from people who are following influencers. They said, yeah, I do follow influencers. And remember, think of yourself as an influencer if you said yes to the questions I mentioned earlier. And the goal of it was to try and identify what's going on with consumers purchasing, what's the relationship developments during the during the pandemic between influencers, brands, and consumers, and what's going to stick, what's going to be here forever. And the first thing we know, if you look at the right side of the slide, is that everybody's spending more time online. And if you look at the Gen Zers, 84% found time to spend more time online. I think they were spending all their time online, and now they're spending more than all their time online. But if you go across to all of the groups of people, everybody's spending time online. But the fascinating fact is that post-outbreak, what these folks reported is that they are going to be maintaining their the additional time that they've spent online. So people who follow influencers and have increased their social media usage are going to follow influencers more and spend more time on social media, which means there's a growing demand for people who consumers trust to share good content. The very fascinating element of that study for me was this, and if you see, I have some arrows on the home furnishings curve. On the left side, what that says is, I follow influencers, and during the pandemic, 16% of the people who said they followed influencers online purchased something in home furnishings based on the recommendation of influencers. On the right-hand side, that's their intent to purchase home furnishings in the next 12 months. It's an amazing slide in every category. Like, for example, you see beauty and personal care is a very low growth, there's going to be less purchasing. So it was kind of interesting. I guess people have learned to get by without makeup during I have no idea what to make of that during COVID. And they say, screw it, when at next 12 months, I'm not going to buy any of that stuff. And with fashion, I guess it's like, I haven't bought a new thing in ages. I haven't had to go out. I'm in sweats and pajamas all the time. So there's going to be an upsurge in fashion purchases. But if you look at home furnishings, it's one of the most amazing and strong curves in growth and what's going to happen in the next 12 months. So if you think business has been good this last 12 months, based on the volume and the focus on the home that people have had and the focus on refinishing their spaces, it's going to be probably even better next year. So there's going to be this significant increase in spending on the home. There'll be a focus on safety-related products, comfort products, and technology that is kind of infiltrating the world of health at home. The other thing is, everybody is reporting they're going to stay more local, and as a result, trust, which is going to be the currency of the future, if it isn't already now, is going to emanate from local outwards. And it's probable that people in the entrenched mindsets that they're in are going to kind of stick where they are to a certain degree of local and self versus community in a lot of ways. And the tension between all of that is going to be strong, and that needs to be recognized by everybody. The other giant thing that happened during the lockdowns and the pandemic that is still happening, is e-commerce growth. In the first 3 months, which meant only really maybe a month and a half of any word of a pandemic, there was 10 years growth in terms of the penetration into the US. Now, this number grew so quickly because it also includes food service, and restaurants and things that you needed to live and was easy to, instead of call them, to shop online, right? But when you look at all non-store sales, meaning e-commerce and factoring out all of the food service and restaurants and bars and things like that, you're seeing this, what each bar represents is that month compared to the same month the previous year, and the percentage of purchase increases in e-commerce. And this is absolutely amazing. And one of the reasons that it's amazing is coming up in a slide or two, because even if you look here, which is click and collect sales, which basically means I purchase online and then I go collect it at the retail or distribution location or whatever. And you can see that since 18 and 19, there was tremendous growth and momentum in this, but it was slowing from 18, 19 because these numbers were increasing 100, 200, 300% in previous years of people getting used to e-commerce. But again, it jumped in 2020. And the growth rate went from 55% back up to 58%. Now, what happened between 2019 and 20 is people who were shy about buying online and then going and picking up somewhere and not being able to see the product physically once, all of a sudden are now happy with it. It's like anything else. You get new users, they get used to the activity, and this forced a whole bunch of reticent users to move online. This particular slide only talks about people who make fewer than 25% of their purchases online over the last year. And so that's a low purchase incident now in e-commerce. Believe it or not, that's considered low incidence of purchase. And if you look, I don't know if you can see it, but in the home decor thing, right in the middle is the home decor buy. You will see that before the pandemic, 6% of these people, they reported that like 6% of their purchases were online. And then it jumped to 13% during the pandemic, and it's going to grow to 16% next year. And again, all of these people were low frequency users of e-commerce, and now e-commerce has blown up, and that's where we're going to be. So there are so many mindsets that have shifted during the pandemic that are going to last going forward, just because it introduced new users into environments they weren't in before. So speaking of consumers, and this is a index score that I follow all the time because I find myself moving left to right on all these bars all the time, and I'd like to see if the rest of the world is moving with me, which is often not the truth. But essentially, if you look, this is basically 2 quarters. The blue numbers are a score, and the scores are 0 to 100. As you get towards the left side, it's 0. To the right side, it's 100. And the orange is another quarter. So 1 quarter is September 17th ending, and 1 quarter is June 5th. And you will see that there was a steady decline, which started at the beginning, of people moving from the right, from basically, I want to identify, I feel like I identify with my community, I'm part of it, I trust other people, I have an appetite for adventure, and I'm confident that I can achieve what I want. Over to the left side, this is where consumers are. Consumers, from their isolation, have developed, because they can't control their world, they have developed a basic distrust, which is always a bad word, but it's just an uncomfortable feeling that others can fulfill what they say they're going to do for you, because you know you can't even fulfill what you plan to do from time to time. So this is what's going on with consumers, and that whole kind of emotional isolation is pushing brands and influencers to fill in the community. It's opened a window to fill in that community, and consumers are going to stay cautious about trusting organizations because their lifestyles have been disrupted. So there's this whole new consumer mentality that, they feel like, I'm a person who likes new things and novelty and adventure and discovering and traveling around the world. But now I'm feeling more like I like safety and I like home. And there's this going to be emotional tug of war. And that's important for anyone in the design industry to stay aware of. The other thing that the 4 conclusions that I made of following this information all year long and reading anything I can get on it is that trust is going to be the #1 currency in marketing and engagement with people over the next 10 years going forward. And the virtual century was launched obviously in 2000, but in 2020, it took a major boost. It's like the second vaccination. And everybody will do things virtually. That makes sense to do virtually. And the premium on getting together is going to be so much higher. And so the together events are going to be more special. Annual conferences are going to be very big because people are going to get on planes and go meet with people all the time as much anymore, because they found all the time they save in very simple conversations that once required a lot of time, whether it be commuting or anything like that. Health is going to be it's not a footnote anymore. Health is more than fitness and diet now. And we've learned that there are health things that we, no matter how we act, can't control about ourselves. And health is going to be a premium. And the great news is that if you're in the home industry, which I know you are, that you found yourself finally in the right place at the right time, because this desire to cocoon is not going to go away. People discovered something. They discovered what they like about it and what they don't like about it. But for a long time, people who didn't were always on the go, found what they like about cocooning, and that's not going to disappear. And so being able to understand that and use that in your content and your marketing is critical. This guy, Aki Spicer from Leo Burnett, one of the big ad agencies, is an amazing thought leader in this. And I just want to play you a little bit of what Aki says about going forward.
Whatever you sold before has a new context. I think we're going to have to recontextualize your product in this new space, in this new sensibility, inside these new behaviors. So your vodka ad that you shot with, hot people at the rave, you're not going to just wait a couple months and then play it again. You're going to have to rethink fundamentally lots of things, whether it's what does friendship look like, in this new era, what does family look like, what does dinner table look like, things, micro trends we want to follow, dinner table and, the rise of, Meatless Monday. Well, tomorrow, Meatless Monday might not be an affluent flirtation with wellness, but called just Monday because we can't afford meat except one day a week.
And, that's a severe reality that he painted, but he was trying to make a point. The other part of this whole influencer marketing thing that developed, and I kind of was following academic journals to find out what's happening on the human psyche, through this. It was just interesting to me, and I knew that it would be important to influencer marketing, is that, we all have parts of ourselves, and influencers lean on their extroverted part very often. It may look like people are very extroverted because they're constantly posting, but all of us have thousands of parts that make us up, and that is a piece of who they are. So these restrictions on physical contact basically suppressed this protective part, this important part of people. And individuals who tend to suppress their emotions will communicate less frequently, have weaker social ties and less support. And this is a struggle that influencers went through, because if I was a travel influencer and I was moving quickly around the world and finding myself in these amazing destinations and giving amazing photos, and if I was a designer and I was setting up 10 projects and I was sending photographers, there's constant content, and you feel, and that extrovert part of you is instigated by a lot of the activity. So here, this is one of the battles that influencers went through. And the only part of what followers reported about what they liked about influencers before the pandemic, this is all before the pandemic, this whole thing of seeing their successful lives, inspiring me to be who I am, was tough for influencers and didn't work during the pandemic. This voyeurism aspect, there was nothing to voyeur. I mean, people were in their homes. There was nothing so much more interesting going on in their lives than everybody else's. So that no longer worked. And this bit about learning new trends, there weren't a lot of new trends except e-commerce, and cocooning. And so the only thing that really worked during the pandemic, because people were looking for entertainment to pass the time, was interesting and fun. Anybody who produced sad and angry just didn't work. People who tried to be voyeuristic, like Kendall Jenner with her island trip for her 30th, 40th birthday, that didn't work. People rebelled on it. So prior to the pandemic, likability and humor were really top traits. But and these are all pre-pandemic data, but if you look to the right, the number one thing that people who follow influencers said that were important to them about influencers was trustworthiness. And number two was empathy. And so trustworthiness and empathy are critical aspects of where we go from here. What makes a trustworthy a creator trustworthy or an influencer trustworthy? Is their passion and their in-depth knowledge about things, and as importantly, their transparency. So these are the elements that people are looking for in the content that people produce. And there's this one woman named Lena. She's a fashion influencer. She never shows her face. She is dealing with a deadly disease for a long time. She has 4 million followers. You'll see in the images, she never shows her face. But all of these people came there to look at the fashion, but they stayed because of our empathy and vulnerability. And these are the critical aspects. One of the things that this, I don't know if you know Nisha, she's founded Business by Girls. It's a venture capital firm. And what she's saying is, there's so much competition now on Instagram and all of the other new platforms. How are my brands that I'm funding going to make a difference where they can connect with people on so many platforms in a trustworthy way? And that is where influencer marketing really comes in, is that brands working with people who already have that trust with their following, carrying the messages in a passionate way because they use the product and they're enthusiastic about it, is perfect. Because brands are going to spend a lot of money. The cost to convert people online through Facebook advertising has been increasing every month. So going out and advertising is still getting more expensive. Cost per click on a blended basis across all platforms got more expensive every month. So really, what people are looking for from brands online and what they want from brands that they'll follow is a lot of things. It's to be informative, to be a source of positivity, to stand for something purposeful. That's especially true in the Gen Z area. Us millennials and older folks, we like more information, but the millennials, the Zers, they want you to stand for something. There's a lot for a brand to do. And the other thing is the top purchase drivers, that once people arrive at a place where they can purchase a product that they were influenced by an influencer, are all of these crazy things like free delivery, promotions, quick delivery, finding a brand that represents me. This is really hard for influencers. So influencers themselves, because they had to find something to do about it, they pivoted. And basically, what I want to show you is one quick thing that Reward Style, which is one of the top influencer marketing platforms, reported this year, is that they reported that that they knew what we knew too in the media business, that we can't get out and photograph. Our agencies can't do anything for us. They're restricted. So influencers were going to fill the gap of producing content for brands. And there was a 45% increase in content produced by influencers on the Reward Style platform last year. Conversions and traffic also doubled and tripled, respectively. The dollar volume of sales in 2020 versus 2019 by influencers was up 150%. And their mobile platform, Like to Know It, I don't know if you guys know this platform, it's an amazing one that you can get on and you can be an influencer, reported a significant increase, 45%, I think, per piece of content that was put there. And let me just play that for you. So this app is something, if you haven't been on it yet, I recommend it fully. I just want to wrap here and then turn it over to Mally by showing you some influencers on Instagram who got the tone right and figured it out. Wayne Pate, who's a fantastic artist, his Instagram feed, if you look at it, is basically an image of a new piece of work that he's done. And what he was able to do here to put everything more in the context where people are more willing to look at it was to create this scene and call it Isolation Nation. And it was a great way to feature his work, but also be empathetic to where people are. Here's a photographer who is out usually shooting projects. And here he captured quiet in his place. and continued to feature his work, but did it in an amazing style. Amanda Brooks, who Mally and I both like very much for the style, basically her caption here was, "I haven't left this room in 2 days," and can't we all really relate to that? And here's a rattan specialist, and she posted this: "Office for the coming days and weeks," but she didn't realize it was months and years, but she got where we were at that time. And this is a Parisian designer who showed you confinement day 6 in a way that allowed her to continue to express her style. So I'm going to close here by just saying to you, try and project out to September. Things are much more back to normal. We can meet face to face. Toilet paper's cheap. Things have changed. COVID-19 has forever changed the experience of being a customer, a consumer, being an employee of a company, a citizen of our world, and a human being. So expect to see behavior change at scale for some time to come based on the activities we adopted now. So thank you very much. Hopefully we may have some time for questions at the end. I'm going to turn it over to Mally now.
Really great, Adam. Thank you so much.
You can just, you share your screen. You got it.
Okay. So this is me. And I just need to get to my, this is me and my doggie, Isabella, that you will see a lot of. And thank you, Adam, for introducing me, and for Adak and Travis. They've been part of my design world right from the beginning. That's my new woven collection, by the way, that I'm very excited about. This is me and Travis. They've always been so kind. They introduced me through Peter Fasano, who was my great mentor. And I'm just doing this little tabletop event. And I just love the atmosphere in Atlanta. It's so friendly and everyone greets you. And I'm all about that. That's the top of my little tabletop. I love vintage, I love pattern, as you can see, and that's my ceramic that I designed in South Africa. I'm a South African gal. Anyway, my hubby is geeky, and what he told me was right at the beginning, I had to get onto Twitter, and made me join in August 2008. I did not understand social media. I didn't understand the point of it really, but I sometimes listen to him. So I joined, and I wanted to know what the point of it was. And then I started joining some Twitter groups, and I got invited to Brimfield. And there was an actual little tent, and I started forming this really lovely group of friends. There's Leslie Carruthers in the background. And it was the first time I had experienced these online friends with a sticker, "Hello, my name is," and connecting to these people. We walked around Brimfield, which is an antique, wonderful show that happens twice a year out in Western Massachusetts, and started forming friendships. Here's Leslie hamming it up with my basket that I bought, this huge basket that hardly fit in the back of my car. And then I realized that I could take my Twitter connections even further. And I started finding these Twitter groups and tweet ups. I don't know if you remember those. As a good South African girl, I decided to get my friends into my house and cook. And here are these people that literally live one town away from me, that I had never met before: Elizabeth Benedict, Kristen Rivley, Seema Krish, who was such a great help starting my fabric line. She's such a good fabric designer. And Linda Holt, who you might have all seen with her amazing photography. She teaches you how to take excellent photographs on your iPhone. Anyway, those friendships evolved into understanding that, you know, the Boston Design Center wasn't friendly in those days, and being a designer is quite a lonely business. So this is one of our meetings of this little tabletop event that we put together. There's Elizabeth, a few of them, Kristen Rivoli, and someone from Esteem Media, and Adam was part of our girl group. And we said, we need to do something about the way things are going in the Boston Design Center. Nobody chats. Let's help our community and reach out. So we started, this is my Positano table from last year's Heading Home to Dinner tabletop event, which was just, it grew and grew and grew and just became, my hubby took this little piece of video, such an amazing event, and we will be back. But that's what social media, you know, did for me. It gave me friends. So Instagram arrived, and of course, it was just like designed for us creative types. Once again, I decided I wasn't going to listen to my hubby, who always says, you know, don't be too personal, don't put yourself up there. I feel and have always felt, my instinct is that I need to keep it real. So my Instagram feed is, you know, my son, my walks on the beach. I care about social justice, and I'm not going to pretend that I don't care about social justice. Show houses, questions. I like conversations. I like the back and forth with people. Eventually, I decided to split off the Skok design, which is more worky and more like interior designy. I don't know if it was the right thing to do. I have less followers on Skok design, but some people don't want to hear my views on everything, I suppose. My influences that I follow are just like friends saying hi to me every morning. I love my feed. I just love my coffee and my people. So here's Tori Malott. Her feed is so funny. I don't know where she finds some of those photographs. They are just odd, but as I open up her feed, I just know it's going to be her and it's going to be interesting. Holly Phillips, the woman, how does she do it? Every single morning, there are just colorful, amazing things. I've been down so many of Holly's rabbit holes. I own a lot of things that she's told me to buy or she loves. And Jamie Maris, also a gem. She's so real. I love the things that she puts up. I buy things from her. I love women-centric products and companies. So my point about social media during the pandemic is that I just never felt lonely because these people, they pop up on my feed every day and to greet me, and we can have a chat or just hit the like. And even though I'm all over the place, the consistency of these people that I follow is just so astounding. I salute them. Here's Andrew Howard, and this is a funny story. We've never met. I think I've met his dad. I really, really love his Instagram feed. It's always preceded by the funniest story about his kids or whatever. And he uses my product. Anyway, I needed to clean up my Instagram the other day, and I must have hit delete on him by mistake. literally 10 minutes later, he was like, don't you love me anymore? And I was like, oops, mistake. I mean, this is how close our connections are with the people that, support and guide us and are our friends. And through this in time of the pandemic, I realized that we only want real, really. This is also a funny story. I followed this woman, the old silver shed, had no idea that she actually lives literally 500 yards down my road in Cape Cod. Talk about consistency. All she does is take photographs of her lovely house in Cape Cod. Sunrise, sunsets. She has 320K, I think I got that right, followers. I just don't know how people do it. This is my friend Anna Brockway, who always has the weirdest things on her Instagram. As I open it up, I know it's going to be her. I actually met her at one of Adam's designer influencer conferences, and we became great friends. Then there are my South African connections. Julian Traeger is this friend of mine who was totally not convinced about Instagram. Anyway, at some dinner party or other, I said to him, you got to do it because, you're just so fascinating. And obviously he likes contemporary art, mid-century houses, and vintage cars. And that's all you'll see. But I've learned a lot from him. And then there's my childhood friend, Serena, who we were walking down the beach and I said to her, you have to do Instagram because you've got a view on everything. And you can write as much as you like. Needless to say, they both have left me in the dust, but that was my influence on them. And they often say thank you to me for that. I feel that when you're putting yourself out there, you need to never be selling. My hubby taught me this. Everything is your brand. What you say, what you like, the photographs that you take, the little comments that you make on other people's Instagram feed. It is all branding you. And I just feel that I like to put my real self out there and let people come to me. Maybe they follow me. Maybe they'll never buy my fabric. Maybe they'll, never use my design services. They just want to be friends. That is great. The other thing that I feel very strongly during the pandemic is that we need to respect our audience. All the time, whenever I'm posting something, and I know that I am privileged, I want to be aware that there are people that are having less fun than me and who are struggling. And I always try and keep that at the back of my mind. I don't want to offend people and I want to be real. I think trust is, as Adam was saying, is just so high on people's list. There's so much misinformation. And it's too exhausting to weed through what's right, what's wrong. When you follow someone, you just want to believe what they say. I say that I paint my own fabrics. And I dug out this old picture of when I did my Africa collection. And here's my messy stuff on the dining room table. I just think misrepresentation has no place in the world anymore. These are little corals that I picked up in South Africa. Who knows when I'm going to get back there with all these variants, but that's a joyful time for me when I'm creating. This is Nature's Valley, where I love to go and walk in South Africa. The other thing that is very important for me is that I want people to feel my kindness from my feed. And I think we all have a duty now to reach out and just support other people. give them a little bit of a boost. This year, I lost my doggie, Rosie, was so terrible in the middle of the pandemic. And people just reached out and, getting emotional. Anyway, as far as my responsibility is concerned, I feel that my real job is to teach. And my demographic is of young people that come onto my website is basically young women of 25 to 34-year-old. They are starting off, they're finding their own way. They are the grand millennials, as Joe Seltz called them. They are just the most amazing young decorators. They don't want the 2-gray sofa and the cocktail table like their mother has. They don't want to edit. They want their granny's needlepoint, and they're my people. So I like to pass on my information from going around the block to them. In fact, I wrote a little book, a little handbook, which is coming out this summer, which is just full of all that information about, how to have a dinner party, how to go vintage shopping. It's for my millennials. Here's my last little story. I was going down the bike path with the doggie, and this guy comes screaming past, and he's like, "Is that Isabella?" And that must be Photo Terrier, my hubby, on the other bike. And I was like, "Who are you?" Anyway, it just happened to be one of my Instagram friends, Ken, who I'd been talking to for about a year. And we've become such good friends. We had outside drinks. He taught me the best place for fruit and veg. I mean, these are the things that have just helped us all, these connections through the pandemic. So yes, I think my job, and I hope you'll take this on as your job, is to create a kind community and use your influence for good. And if you have nice products, they will come. That's about it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mally. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Mally, we have a couple of questions. I'm going to let you handle them.
Okay.
You may, first of all, if anybody has any more questions, we have a little time for that.
Okay.
And you can put them either in the chat to attendees and panelists, or you can put them in the Q&A area, and I'm monitoring them and I'll feed them to Mally.
Okay.
Okay. So Mally, one of the questions, I think you made mention of Andrew J. Howe.
Yes. Andrew Howard. Yes.
Yeah. And how did he know you unfollowed him?
I have no idea. He must have an app that says, Mally Skok stopped following you, or the people that deleted he got deleted from. I mean, literally within the hour, he was like, "Don't you love me anymore?" It was, and I just quickly, because I follow too many people, so I had to clear out some people from the bottom and get him back in again. And he's a great friend in the industry, and he uses my fabric, and he's funny. Funny is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I haven't looked at this in a while, but there are apps or tools that you can find to
monitor all of that.
To monitor that.
Yeah.
I think what they are, you can search around for that. Mm-hmm. We have a few more questions, Mally. Okay. I think this one is really best for you to answer also.
Okay.
Are all the Insta images ones that you own, or do you use images you see on Google, etc.? I assume you need to credit someone if you're using the image, but what if you don't know who owns it? Thanks.
Well, two things. First of all, I think all of our prowess at taking photographs has improved, and you know, the camera is just so amazing in the phone that I take all of my own photographs, or else if I use a family photograph or something, my hubby is a good photographer. So sometimes I use some of his stuff. But I am not one of those people that's all copyright. And I mean, we're trying to push our influence out into the world. I don't mind if people repost my pictures. I mean, they'll eventually figure out who it is. I just think holding on to your stuff is unbecoming. I mean, share, come on. It's not me. I'm happy for anyone to just plug away at my stuff.
There you go. So I have a question. I'm curious. I'd like to give you one answer. I'm curious how Mally would answer it too. Actually, I'll give it to Mally. Maybe she'll be able to answer it the way maybe we think the same about this.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm an older designer, not an old designer, an older designer, and who's been in the furniture business. And how do you start out as an influencer or a blogger?
I think the way to start out is to start an honest conversation with the people that follow you. Because once you create this premise of trust, people, when you put something out that you like or that you think is going to be the next big thing, people will believe you. You have to first be trustworthy. What do you think, Adam? Otherwise, you're just throwing it out there.
You're 10,000% correct, and that's where I would have concluded my answer. There was one thing that's why I wanted to hear what you had to say about it, and so I can just add on to it.
Yeah.
One thing even before that, which is how, if the question again is how do you start, right? Just start.
Yeah, just
in
start.
other words, I remember, for myself, I was never really an influencer. I'm not an influencer in the design space. I don't have a design sensibility, which is why I hire people like Mally. But I became an influencer in the wine space, and I started writing I was trying to figure out during the housing crisis in 2008 and 9. What's with the web and how does content move around there? Is there an opportunity there? Because I was a traditional media operator, and so somebody said to me, "Just write a blog." I'm thinking, what am I going to write a blog about? And I wrote a blog about wine, and up to that point, I had like maybe 20 friends who were at a level of fine wine appreciation that I really enjoyed talking about this stuff with. It was about 20 of us.
Once you start, you realize how much knowledge you actually have, but you have to write it down.
Exactly, and it's not so much. You may say, well, a lot of people know what I know, but nobody has your perspective. Nobody has your point of view. And so again, like Mally said, I was just really honest about what role wine played in my life and explored lots of information around that. And before you know it, there were people who thought I was like an expert on wine, and I had this big following, and and I was it was changing my life.
But you didn't invent it. You do love wine. You do understand wine. I understand the kind of wines that you like. They're all, artisanal and come out of some vase that's gone into the ground in Lithuania or something. So, that honesty is what draws people to your opinion. And so that's
the same thing in design. And it's the same thing in design.
Social media with you. You understand how it works, the whole online digital media thing. And people do look to you for guidance.
Yeah, and that part of it, right. But the point is that where Mally and I are now, we're exactly the same person we were before we created any content online. But when we create content online, we do it from our soul and from our sensibility and from our the way we choose to engage with human beings offline.
Oh, I think there's one other thing. Why people trust you and everything. You have to back up what you say. You have to be a person that turns up, actually. And a good example is you and I saying that we were going to do that trip to South Africa. And I was visiting my daughter in London, and I was flying down in the good old days down to Cape Town. And I said, I'll meet you outside the Silo Hotel for lunch. You came from, I don't know where. I got out of Julia's car and I was like, you're here. And you were like, of course I'm here. You told me be here at 1 o'clock in Cape Town. And I just think that trust of being a person that does what they say is one of the most important things for people believing you.
Right.
And lots of people say things that are just flaky, and nobody's got time for that anymore.
Right. We don't have time for a lot of stuff, even though we have so much time, right?
Yeah.
We have more questions. Let's keep moving on. Hopefully that gave you some context. Just start and be you. That's the best way to think about it.
And talk to people, give them some feedback on their feeds, create friendships like that.
Right. Mally, somebody asked a question. Oh, this was for me. Adam, what was the name of the app you suggested we get toward the end of your presentation? I want to, that's called LTK.it, or if you go on, if you search it on Google, or you want to go to their online site, it's like2know.it. Like2know.it. And then if you are looking up in the App Store, it's LTK, and you'll find it. And then, yes, Mally, this one I think is great for you. Not that you are, but maybe you have a perspective on this. Is there any advice for extreme introverts trying to establish a presence on social media?
Yes, because actually one of my children is quite an introvert. And so just keep it down. Don't expect too much from yourself. A couple of posts every day or so, it's fine. Don't judge yourself so harshly. You can't be like anyone else. Just be yourself. And there are plenty of other introverts out there that will understand and follow you, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. We do have time for another question or two. I don't know that we have any, but Mally, I would just want to report back to you, since I am following the chat. I don't know if you're following the chats along.
No, I'm not. I can only
But
time on
there is a lot of love going to you on the passing of your dog. Everybody's relating to that, and many others have lost their pets too during this, and they're reporting that. And they can feel the energy.
That just pushes you over the edge, right?
Yeah, people are reporting to that. And you just have a lot of fans here who love your style, and both your textiles reporting, and I can't say this unless it's here because everybody can read the chat. I'm not making this up. Both your textiles and your authenticity are channeling through to people very effectively. So
good. I'm glad to hear it. I really love all my friends out there.
Yeah, we just got another message. Let's see. Okay, here's our last question, and then we're going to have to pop off. It's 10:58. Do you find it difficult to manage a personal and work-oriented position in social media community?
Do you, Adam? I think you are exactly who you are.
I think neither of us do.
We don't have split personalities. So I think that would be too much of a juggle for me. And that's why I chose to go with the full authenticity route, because if everything in my feed had to be curated, it would be too exhausting. It's just not for me. Some people do it beautifully, but I can't.
Right. And what I would say as a closing comment, since we have literally 1 minute, to add on to what Mally has said, is that I always used to say to people, when you bring guests in your home, sometimes you just bring them downstairs and you don't bring them upstairs, right? Because that's where a lot of the messiness in your life is. You can think of social media the same way. What's your upstairs and downstairs? But
Public and
wherever
private
you bring them, be you, be it. Live
It's
with
all your
them
house.
in your house, right? And remember, you bring yourself to work every day, and people who understand that, I had to learn that as a leader of a company, that all my team brings themselves to work every day, and I cannot dictate who they should be at work.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and it's the same thing on social media. So it's 11 a.m.
Okay.
And Mally, I've enjoyed being here with you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It was lovely. It was terrifying, but it was lovely.
You did good. You did great. So okay, we're gonna jump off now.
Okay.
And thank you everybody for your enthusiastic participation and support.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.